All right, we are just getting started here. Going on to my TikTok live and get that started as well. Uh, All right. We close that. We close that. Open this over here. All righty. I think we are good to go at this point. So, welcome to the Bright Futures Moving Forward Mondays podcast. And, my mission is to, help create a world where, um, a world of abundance, really for humankind. And that kind of sounds very audacious, sounds like a big thing to say for humankind. But yeah, that's the goal, to make my part a little bit, to do my part, to help, as far as where the world is. And I'm to the age where more of my life is behind me than it is in front. And but I still want to see a bright future. I want to see, advancement. I want to see people happy, living in abundance, living in wealth, enjoying their lives. It's something that I really care about. So, to give a little intro of myself, my name's Matthew Washington. Um, Short, I mean, I went to college at Rutgers University. I went to, I have a degree in philosophy and economics, and double majored in those because my parents said, when I said I wanted to be a philosophy major, they said, philosophy, what are you going to do with that? So I had to pick up economics as well. And, in the study of economics, I'm going to be doing Philosophy Fridays. So that will be also a part of what we do. But as far as economics go, economics really is the study of the distribution of scarce resources. That's what economics is. And so, which is counterintuitive because we live in a universe of abundance. This is where my philosophy comes in, and attacks my economic side, is that, we live in a universe of abundance. We live, as human beings, what are the things that we need most? Well, the first thing we need is air, right? Like, we can't go more than a couple of minutes without air. And so what's the most abundant thing we have all around us? Air. It's the one thing they actually don't charge us for yet, is breathing air. And so we have all the air that we want. We have so much of it. Nobody cares. Nobody says, "Hey, you're breathing a little bit too much. You're using a little bit too much air," because it's abundant. And then the second thing that we need is water. All right. Well, water literally falls out of the sky, right? It falls out of the sky. Two-thirds of our planet is made up of water. And the idea of making it drinkable water is actually pretty simple. It's just a matter we could do it, but money, and we're going to talk about that, and that's why I'm doing this talk. But one of the things that holds us back from having enough water for everyone and having water everywhere it costs too much to desalinate water. But the point being is we live in abundance. Energy, I'm in the solar business. I'm in energy, and it's like the sun puts more energy on planet Earth in 1 hour than humanity uses in the entire year. So we have just all the energy we could ever want, and it just is free. It comes right from our sun. So, we need food, right? Food grows out of the ground. We can make as much food as we want. It literally comes right out of the ground, and we can eat it. So the idea of scarcity is simply a way to divide us, divide people, to say, look, the idea of scarcity, the idea of money, it's a simple way of creating power over people, by saying you don't have enough, or I have so much, look at how great I am. And it gives people an illusion of being more important. One person is more important than somebody else. And that's, Alan Watts had I talk a lot about Alan Watts. And Alan Watts gave a talk, and I was listening to him, and he talked about the Great Depression and how in America we had this Great Depression where people were literally living in the streets, starving, dying, they no shelter. And he's like, well, what really happened in the Great Depression? Did we have less wood? Did we have less materials, iron, steel? Was there less, was there anything, any of the natural resources that we have, was there any less of it? Or simply there was less money, which is simply a system of accounting. And so because the money was messed up, we had everything that we need, but we confused money for wealth. And one of the things he talks about is wealth being the totality of everyone's energy, intellect, and resources. That's like the true wealth. And he talks about money is just an accounting system. It's just a way to actually account for those things. And we spend, if you talk to a really, an actual wealthy person, they will trade you tons of money for your time, right? Because time is something that is not a limitless resource. Money is a limitless resource. We can make as much money as we want. We actually do at this point. We just make it up. There's just numbers in a computer at this point. They don't even have to print it anymore. But time is something you can't get back. And so the concepts of wealth and money are two different things, and we'll address that a little bit more, on Wealth Building Wednesdays, which I will be doing as well. So how can we give everyone all the energy and resources and technical intellect that they desire? How can we do that? And the answer is yes. Absolutely we can. We're given this idea that we're overpopulated, and if you actually look at a map, if you go on Google and go, can you just map the population of where people are? The earth has far enough abundance for every single person. I talk about one of the things that we talk about about in as far as like homelessness, right? It's like or it shouldn't be called homelessness, it should be called houselessness, but that's a whole other thing. But there's so many homes. There's more homes. There's 6 times as many homes as there are homeless people. Like we could literally give every single homeless person a home, but there's just vacant houses out there. But because they have to pay for it, it's not fair. I paid for my house, and they shouldn't be able to not. They should be on the street if they can't pay for it. And it's again misunderstanding, a looking at money and resources and real wealth and confusing the two. It's like it's so that's another thing. We have more than enough food that no one needs to go. We destroy food in America. The government pays people to destroy food. And so we have plenty of food. I know there was a big thing about like, why don't the rich people, solve homelessness? Why doesn't Elon Musk solve, the, what is it? Famine, not famine. People don't have enough hunger. Yeah. And it's like, well, he doesn't need to. We already make enough food. We already make enough houses. There's more houses and food for everyone, but we have a structure in place that makes makes the haves and the have-nots. And it's like, how do we change the structure? How do we make it better? How do we make it so there isn't this way? There isn't the power at the top and everyone else gets worse and worse as time goes on. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today, and every Monday. We're just looking for ideas right now, and I'm new to all this, the podcasting and the lives and whatnot. But I want to share some ideas that I think one can help and just give people a little bit of thought. So Bright Futures, by the way, is the name of the company, I guess the social media. I don't even know what to call it at this point. If you want to look up my website, it's brightfutureadvocates.com. It is in transition as this is the first day of doing this, and I'm uploading and making it and learning how to make a website all by myself. So you will see it improving as time goes on. My goal is to do this full time. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy sharing ideas. This is really what I love doing. So, that is my goal, and to provide some entertainment, provide some inspiration, provide invoke some change in the world. And that's so if you want to support that mission, feel free to go on there. You can see my Patreon on there. I set that up. I will have merch and all that kind of stuff. That's all coming down the line. I'll start working on it. I have a lot of great ideas. I just got to put them into practice, which we'll be doing. So right now, day one, working on the website. And Patreon will have more stuff to come. It's going to be a fun ride. I'm excited for all this information that I'm going to be bringing to people. Just so you know what I'm going to be doing, it's going to be Monday night. We're doing right now, which is Moving Forward Mondays. And this is all going to be about the American government, how we can fix it, how we can work on it. What things can we do to improve what's going on, because there's a lot of things that are messed up and we're not on the right trajectory. And how can we change it? How can we turn the path of where we're going, which is not good. It's a lot of financial disaster. A lot of people can't buy houses, can't build wealth, can't, just to feel frustrated. And this is why you see things like, suicide rates going up and obesity going up, and people just feel like there's no path. And in some cases they're right. And by the way, it's going to get worse as time goes on, as inflation goes up. There's a separation of the haves and the have-nots, and the middle class is completely being wiped out. And that could be a good thing if we'll talk more about, robots and AI and the things that can be happening. But if we have a structure in place that the identity through work is not people's identity anymore. This is something I'm going to play a clip from Andrew Yang in a little bit, but Andrew Yang talked about. It's like, can we give people more of value as opposed to just being economic value? Because a lot of people just see it as economic value, right? So can you, how much value do you bring to the marketplace? How much value do you bring? And it's like, well, there's value in doing things other than making money, right? There's value in raising your children, right? Instead of spending 40 hours a week, and now we're to the point where almost two people have to, spend 40 hours a week just to get by and to have a house and a mortgage and, and pay the bills. And so what does that do to raising the kids, right? And how much time can you really spend with them, or the time that you do spend with them, you're exhausted, right? Because you've been working and you're just trying to squeeze it in. So, it's like, so how can that be valuable? I talked about, excuse my slurping. I talked about, I talk to people all the time about universal basic income and the government giving people money. And, and the immediate reaction I get from some people is, well, if you just gave people money, then no one would do anything. No one would do any work. No one would do anything. They would just be lazy, right? They would just be lazy bums. And I think that's just a poor, in my opinion, that's a poor, not, what's word am I looking for? It's just a poor way to look at humanity and people. It's like, for example, I play volleyball on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm not looking to go to the Olympics. I'm not trying to make money as a professional volleyball player. I do it because it's fun, and I find time to do it. Somebody who plays, I have a friend who plays guitar. He posts videos of him learning the guitar. He doesn't need to do, he's not trying to be in a rock and roll band. He's or make money. He just wants to learn guitar. So, the point being is, you just because you have money doesn't mean you're going to stop, or if money was given to you, you would stop doing everything that's valuable, right? Look at I know I talk about Elon Musk all the time. Look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk just posted today that he's going 7 days, going to be sleeping in the office and going hard on this AI stuff and expanding the robo taxi network and whatnot. And it's like the guy's got all the money in the world. He doesn't have to do anything. He didn't have to get involved in top politics. He doesn't have to get involved in it. Like, he literally could just shut it down right now and live several lifetimes off the money he has and be done with it. But that's not what he sees value in, right? So he sees value in his projects and the things that he wants to do, whether you agree with him or not, whether you like him or not, that's what he's doing. And so um the idea of giving people money and UBI to me is something that's got to become, and it already exists, by the way. In Alaska, they give a universal basic income, and yeah. So tonight's topics, we're going to do a little bit of Andrew Yang. Right now, I'm going to play a clip from him. Actually, let me share my screen for those of you on my YouTube channel. So I am going to be doing live on TikTok and on YouTube. If you want to check me out on YouTube, it's Bright Future Advocates. It's just youtube.com at Bright Future Advocates. You can check us on there. Please go and subscribe, and as far as that goes. But while I'm doing this, let's see, let me go here. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. For the YouTube people. My camera on my new laptop here is very zoomed into my face. All right, so yeah, let's do this. Share. So Andrew Yang just did well, he didn't just do it. This has been around for a while. But he did a TED Talk, and I'm going to share it. I'm going to play it right now. Hopefully it'll be loud enough. And I'm not going to play the whole thing, but it is 10 minutes. I would highly recommend everyone go and check that out. Check out this little video. I'm going to play a clip of it and talk a little bit about it. Make myself a little bit bigger here. Maybe I can't. Yeah, I can. So, but it's called Why U.S. Politics Are Broken. If you just look up Andrew Yang TED Talk, and I'm just going to play a little excerpt here, and just to kind of talk about like where our government is. Like, it's like, what are the things that happen? Like, I remember looking when the presidential election was going on. I remember looking up the Electoral College and how it started and how it works, and it just boggled my mind. I was like, this is how we pick our president, and I don't even know. Like, I'm 49, 48 years old, or 47 at the time, and I'm just learning this myself. Like, why wasn't I taught this in school? And if they did teach me in school, sorry teachers, I wasn't paying attention. And the Electoral College is ridiculous. Like, I'm like, this is how we pick the president. It's insane. I'm not going to go into it right now. We'll hold that for another topic for another Monday. But Congress is a whole nother thing, and that's what we're going to talk about right now with Andrew Yang here. So let me get into it. I'm going to play this little clip. Hopefully on TikTok you can hear it, and I'll stop it and pause and talk a little bit about it. So here we go. By the way, I completely agree with that. I voted for Andrew Yang, and I would have voted for him if he got through the primary. He didn't get through the primary as the candidate because the Democratic Party didn't like him, and neither the media, neither the money involved, and blah blah blah. They even like put up the wrong pictures of him, even though he had. Anyway, I'm not going to go through a whole thing about how they railroaded Andrew Yang, but they did, and so. But the reason he got such a groundswell is because he just was making sense. Now, he was probably a little bit early with the things that he was talking about doing, like universal basic income and AI and these things. But we have to start preparing for these things, like AI and robo taxis and an automatic truck driving. I just watched, someone sent me a video today about a company called Aurora that was making long distance trucks, driverless long distance trucks. And the thing is, we have to be able to look a little bit into the future and see this is what's coming. Like Nvidia is one of the biggest companies in the world right now. It is, if it's not the biggest company, according to market cap, and all these people are buying all these chips, and this is what is being worked on. And so to not prepare our economy for the fact that trucking is going to go away, taxi cab drivers are going to go away, robots are going to be doing all the Amazon jobs are going to go away. Like these jobs are gone. Like we won't, it'll be like someone talking about becoming a blacksmith in like less than 5 to 10 years from now. It's just, and that's a lot of people's jobs. It's a lot of the stuff that's going to be automated. The AI, as far as talking and being a customer service rep, like right now we hate it. But like operate, like I call utility company and stuff, and I'm just like representative. But the representative that's going to come on is going to be so good, you're not going to know the difference between a person and their representative. And so we have to prepare for this. Like, and not only do we have to prepare for it because on the people side, because people won't have money, but also the businesses have to prepare for this, because yes, they're going to cut out a lot of expense by robots and AI, but then who's going to buy the products? Like where's the like it's great that you can cut down, economics. I'm an economics major, right? So there's supply and demand. And, as far as your profit margin goes, if you can cut down, if you can use a robot that can do things 24 hours a day, 23 hours a day, 7 days a week, doesn't get sick, doesn't call out, doesn't have bad days, doesn't make mistakes, doesn't get tired, and is just going to work. And you can cut out your major, and this is going to be more for Philosophy Fridays, but whatever. It's a part of these are all things that we have to think about as far as going into the future. Do I think robots and AI are going to be great? But I think they can be, but we have to set up our infrastructure. Our government is not prepared for this. And so if you cut out all your expense, like the biggest expense, like a third. I used to watch what's that show? Restaurant Impossible, right? I don't know if anyone's ever watched Restaurant. Robert Irvine, love that show. If you want to actually see me tear up a little bit, it's have me watch a couple episodes of Restaurant Impossible, right? Because you have these people who are trying so hard and they're in so much debt into it. And I've been there before where, I've had businesses and I had no money and I didn't know where it was coming from and I didn't know how I was going to pay my employees and whatnot. And to see Robert go in there and change those people's lives, just by fixing up the things that he does. But one of the things that always happens is he has to teach them how to price their food correctly, right? But I know nothing about restaurants. But one of the things he said it's the third, right? A third of the price is the actual food itself, the ingredients. A third is your overhead, and I forgot what the other third was. Third. Labor costs, right? And so as far as, overhead not being labor, or profit, actually, I think it was profit. I think overhead went into like your labor costs. But labor is like a third of the business, right? Like when you hire someone, a company that's hiring someone, people are freaking expensive, as far as not only do you have to pay their salary and the training that's involved and ramping them up and, dealing with their sick days and all that other stuff, but and then all the extra stuff, the double taxes you got to pay on them, as an employer. And people got to pay taxes, but employers got to match those taxes and having a 401k and, and all the stuff that goes along with an employee. And if you can eliminate the employee and you can have something that is going to work three times as long, not not mess up, not be tired, not complain, not be sick, not have do all these things, and they're automatically trained. Well, of course, as an employer, you're gonna put that in place. You're gonna cut down your expenses. But if you cut enough of the labor, cut enough expenses out, that's great. But who's going to buy your products if everyone's losing their jobs? That's the big thing. And so it's not one side that has to worry about this, about people losing all the people that aren't going to have jobs anymore, but the other side of like who's going to buy our products if no one has money, right? And so this is what the government needs to start preparing for. And we have the money to do it. We have the methods to do it, but Washington and the way our government is structured is just not prepared for change. And it's funny because that's what America is supposed to be about, right? We always talk about the Constitution and why the Constitution is so great. Well, the Constitution is supposed to be so great because it's supposed to be a living document that can change and adapt and grow with time. I was watching some comedian, and he said, if the founding fathers came back like today, like whoosh, like all of a sudden you brought them back, and they would look at what we're doing and they would say, why haven't you changed stuff? It's like people are like the Second Amendment. You can't change the Second Amendment. It's called an amendment. It was a change. That's what amendment means, right? So you're supposed to make changes to this thing, and you're supposed to rehash it and look at the laws and get rid of the old laws. We never ever get rid of laws. Like we add new laws, but we don't get rid of old laws. And so these are things that need to take place, right? Um, as far as just making us savvy and ready to go. And so, Andrew was just talking about that, and he was his big thing when he ran for president was UBI and everything. And like I said, he was early, but he needed to be early, but everyone's just not on it yet. And what's going to happen is now that we're getting closer and closer to these robo taxis and all these things, these robots and things that are going to happen, our government is going to have to be reactionary, and like we all are, and then we're going to scramble and try to figure out what to do, and we can start working on it right away. But all right, let's go back. Sorry, this is not the point I wanted to do with this video, but it got me thinking. Now he's doing a 10-minute talk, but the approval rating of Congress, of your congressman, approval rating that people give is 15%. If you had a job and your approval rating of your boss, of your customers, of the people who dealt with you, if you're in customer service, if you were a nurse, like that, if your approval rating was 15%, would you be able to keep that job? 15% of people said, "Hey, you're doing a good job. I approve of what you're doing." What position? Tell me, other than Congress, what position can you get a 15% approval rating and keep your job? And I don't know any. All right, so the congressional approval rating is 15%. Let's keep going with Andrew. All right, let's talk about that. He just said a bunch of stuff. So number one, 15% approval rating from people for Congress, and a 94% 94% um, reelection rate. So how is that possible? Like that, it's possible because that's the way they've set up the system, right? And the people who set up the system are the people who are getting that 94%. And as you just said, they've already moved all the congressional lines and the way everything sets up, in that they can't lose their job. There's almost impossible for them to lose their job just because of the way that they've aligned their voting districts. So you have a 15% approval rating and 94% reelection rate. That is insane. And we have to look at that and say there's something wrong there. We're starting off in the wrong with the wrong incentives, for the wrong there's got to be some fix for that. So let's listen to Andrew, who's going to keep talking about this. So what he's saying here is only 15% or 12% or something. I don't know what the number was. A very small percent of people actually vote in the primaries, right? So you're not designed to your objective is not to as the congressman or woman, if you want to keep your job, you don't have to you don't have to make it right for everyone. Everyone doesn't have to be happy. You don't even have to have 51% of the people happy, because the only people who are voting in the primaries are a small majority of people, and they're usually the people who are very strong minded, either right or left. And so as long as you cater to those people, as long as you cater to the extreme, then you keep your job. And he's going to talk about this even more. So why would you bother trying to help everyone when everyone doesn't vote for it? Now, I am not a big person on voting, but if we're going to look at, I'm totally down for saying, what changes can we make? So like everyone gets all wrapped up in like the presidential voting, and because it's a big spectacle. But what about these congressional seats? Again, 15% approval rating, 94% reelection rate. So maybe we shouldn't get as excited about who's the president, and we should get more excited about more of the local and not that's not even local, but state representatives, and why they draw these lines this way, and why it's just the radicals that are getting what they want. He's talking about how you lose your job. Yeah, I think you're right. So you have a system in place where uh, you only have to abide, you only have to do things for the extremists, for the extreme 10% that are going to vote in your primaries. and then and therefore and because the districts are drawn up in a way, you already pretty much know if you're a Democrat, you're going to win New York, you're going to win California, you're going to win this, you're going to win that. And if you're a Republican, you're going to win, Texas, you're going to win this part, you're going to, whatever. It's obviously not a whole state, but if you're a senator, it would be. But you know what I'm talking about. And the congressional, like, go look at the congressional district lines. They are wacky. They're like unbelievably how they're drawn. Like they're literally drawn like so. Like this congressional district, I remember seeing the Georgia one. It was like it like came up and it was like it grabbed like Atlanta, and then it was like a long string that went down and grabbed like some other city where basically all the minorities lived, right? And then the other districts were like weird around that. And it's like, who drew these lines? Why is this the lines? And then they're drawn because they want to keep the status quo. They want to keep their power. And so and all they got to do is make 10% of them happy because no one even knows. Do we even know like when the primaries are? Like some people do, but it's not a big to do. It's not like, oh, it's not like the presidential election. And so we don't care. Nobody cares because they're too busy trying to rub two nickels together. But this is where we're going to have to go. This is where we're going to have to go and say, look, if we're going to change things, we don't have to, I keep thinking like there's going to have to be a revolution. And it will get to that point eventually where, if people get desperate enough and they don't have money and they can't feed their families, they're gonna then violence will come. Like that's just how it goes. Revolution will happen. And as um my friend Alan Watts used to say, there's the one thing we learn from history is we never learn anything from history, and history has repeated that process over and over and over again. The kings and queens and who have taken power, and the more power they get, the worse they treat the peasants and the peons, and eventually the peasants and the peons, there's more of them than there are the royalty people, and we overthrow them. So it would be nice not to have that happen in America. I would hope, but how can we change it without going to revolution? Well, this is one of the things that we're talking about. Like that's it's the purpose of Bright Futures, and to start talking about these things and build a group and build a community that can say, hey, let's change the stuff. When are the primaries? Let's get people involved and going, and let's vote for people who are going to actually change this system. And even if they're like, I would vote for someone if they're going to change the system, even if they were totally against. It's like, hey, for one cycle, let's let everything else go away. Abortion, illegal immigration, whatever, the gun control, like whatever issues they use to divide us, and just say we're not going to care about any of that for one cycle because it doesn't matter. Like even when they tell you this, I'm for this or I'm against this or whatever, they do whatever they want once they get there anyway, right? Like this is what they do. We're the Republicans were like, oh, we're gonna be for small government, and then they just passed like one of the biggest spending bills ever. And this is not Republicans bad, Democrats good, Democrats bad, Republicans good. It's the system as a whole is broke. We need to fix it. So could we put the differences aside, as the middle group, as that not 10% and the 90%, and for one time through say, and maybe obviously it's not going to be this year or next year, but can we build a community to do that, to say let's change the system and scare the hell out of the people who are the elites. So anyway, let's go back to Andrew. This is ridiculous. Yes, it takes 5 minutes to depress. So what he's saying is, and this was a U.S. senator said this. It's like you. the Congress people, even if you want to do something good, even if you go and you say, I'm not going I'm not there for the corporate greed. I'm not there for the lobby groups. I'm not there for, I really truly want to go and be there for my people, for the people and do the right things. Well, the point being is what if you feel is what right, like if you're a Democrat and you feel like something that the Republicans are saying is right and you go against it against the Democrats, you will now lose your seat. Because the next person will come in and say, look, this person sided, they crossed the aisle, they're not there for you. And who are they talking to? They're talking to their radical 10%. And that person gets voted out because they didn't toe the line. I remember when um what's her name, Tommy Lauren, she's not a congressperson, she's just a talking head for the right, but she's all right, and then I think she went on like The View or something, and she said something about how like that she supported like abortion or women's rights or to or something along those lines. And oh my gosh, the whole, oh, she's this, she's that, and it all came down. Now imagine if she was, her career was like set back because of that, just because she didn't say everything that the right said. You have to agree with everything on the right. And so now imagine you're a politician and you just do one thing. You just say, I think this is right. But when you see the votes, like go watch the if you ever see like how a bill goes through and it's like all the Democrats vote one way and all the Republicans vote the other way. It's like almost every single time, and they struggle and strive to get maybe one or two to cross the aisle. And those people are really sticking their neck out because now they're going to be toast, right? So, Andrew just talked about that. The one Republican or the 10 Republicans who said, they voted to impeach Donald Trump, eight of them lost their jobs. So you see that happen. Are you gonna step out and be like the person who does something against your party if you know that's gonna be used against you politically, and the people who are voting is not most of the people, not the most reasonable people who might see what you did and said, oh, okay, well, that was reasonable based upon the evidence. No, you're going to go against the 10% who's in that district that's been drawn to be red or blue, to now go, oh, well, let's get rid of them. And then what do you think your opponent's going to say, by the way? Hey, so and so went with the Democrats, so and so went with the Republicans the last time, and let's get them out of here. And this is the the divided states of America, as far as that goes. So, all right, so let's listen to Andrew talk a little bit about how he proposes we fix this ridiculous problem. So, oh, whoops. So this is pretty cool that what he's talking about in the ranked choice voting, and it's kind of interesting that Alaska is the state that always gets to do these things. Like UBI already exists in Alaska, which is Universal Basic Income, where they give people money based upon the income that comes in. Um, based on the oil, the amount of oil that they have in the state, and they take that money and they just give it to the people. Oh my goodness, what a surprise! Taking money and giving it to the people. And so this ranked choice voting thing, what it does is it allows more than just the two parties to have a chance, right? And we would love to have like there's no way on every single issue you can say that there's only you either believe this way or this way, and it's based upon every single other person in that party. Like it's insane to think that every single person, is thinks in the Republican Party thinks the same about, and the Democratic Party, it doesn't matter which one, thinks the same thing about abortion, the same thing about gun rights, the same thing about education, the same thing about fiscal policy and war policy, the same thing about the war, and the same thing about crime. And like, there's no way that there's only this way or this way. It's either you're the believe this way, this party, that party. So we need more parties. Actually, we need no parties. All right. What I believe is we should have zero political parties, and I'm pretty sure some of the founding fathers, including George Washington, said that, like, no political parties at all. We should have none. So that's not happening anytime soon. So then we need more. At least we need three. At least we need four, maybe even more. Because there's shades of gray. There's not just one. And the nonsense that's always thrown out of, well, if you vote the other way, then we're going to lose and they're going to win. So therefore, or if you vote for a third party, then we're going to lose votes on our side, and therefore you're going to let the other team win, the red team versus the blue team, and you can't leave. But not everybody's voting anyway. You're only getting a small percentage of people who are actually doing the voting. So A, that's not true because you have a massive amount of people who don't vote at all who could vote for a third party, and B, who just don't feel like either they don't know how to vote because we make it challenging, they can't vote because we make it challenging, or they just don't know the information, and so the point being is you can have three, four, five, six different parties if you needed about different subjects and say, okay, this is the most important thing in this for this party. But you can't do that in America because all the money goes to the amount of money that's spent by the Democrats and the Republicans, and then the media, and then everyone tells you you can't leave, you can't do that, you're going to hurt. If you vote for a third party, Trump's going to win. If you vote for the third party, Harris is going to destroy the country, Obama, the this and that. And if you vote for the third party, we're going to all be, fear, 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 fear. It's nonsense. All right, sorry, getting a little riled up. Sarah, nope. Yeah, that's Marjorie Taylor Greene now. She's got that new role. Same. billion. And wow. So just to kind of explain that, what he's talking about is, so the way ranked choice voting works, for those who don't know, is instead of, so everyone gets on the ballot, right? And what you do is you just rank them, right? And so let's say you're a Republican and you only want to vote Republican, right? So you put, whatever the Republican person is first. And then, but then you have to choose second, right? And maybe it's the Democratic Party, or maybe it's the Forward Party, or maybe it's someone from some other party or something, or some independent. So you put them as second, right? And then third and fourth and whatever. And then what happens is like there's different. So you let's say you have to pick the top five. You have to rank five people. Well, that means the number one person gets 5 points, first say, let's just call them points. The second person gets 4 points, and so on and so forth, right? So the reason why the number two person on a lot of these ballots wins is because they're the more moderate person. Like, so yeah, they might be the independent that everyone kind of likes, but oh, I only vote Republican. So you can't just go down and go, like what most people do when they go to vote. They don't know anything about what any person on there said, who the commissioner is, or what their policies are, or what all the different people you vote for, the judge so and so, or they know zero information, but they know I'm a Republican, so I'm going to put R, and I'm a Democrat, so I put D, right? And that's who they vote. Does that sound like the smart way to run the country? Does that sound like a good way to come up with the best leadership? Does that sound like a way that maybe some corruption will happen because we're not even spending time? And again, I'm not blaming people. I'm blaming the system. And I'm saying that we need to change this system. The system needs to be changed. And the only way it can change is by people coming in and out and listening to this, and and starting some kind of movement, like, and letting people know, here's what's going to happen. Here's what you need to do if you want to change the situation. Instead of complaining about how everything's getting more expensive, and the rich fat cats are getting it, and the government is not doing what we need them to do, and I only giving them a 15% approval rating, but then they all get voted back in. So why would they change? Why would they do anything for you? And then still saying, well, I can't, I believe in this, I'm a liberal, so I can't, I'm a conservative, so I can't vote the other way. And so everything just stays status quo, and the people in power continue to take more power and take more money and take more rights and take from us, the people. And it's supposed to be a government of the people, for the people, not for the political party and the politicians and the lobby groups and the corporations. So ranked choice voting is a solution, one of the solutions. There's probably other solutions. All I have to say is that the correct solution is not what we're doing now. What we're doing now has been set up to keep the people in power and give you an illusion of choice, as George Carlin used to always say. You have an illusion of choice. If you want a bagel, there's 1,700 different types of bagel that you can have now. If you want some soda, you want something to drink, there's a whole aisle of different choices. But if you want to choose a cable provider, if you want to choose a news network, there's maybe one or two or three choices. If you want to choose, the leader of the country, you got choice A and choice B. That's it. Like, so everything else is multiple things that don't matter. But in the government, you choose A or B, and that's all you got. And it's it has to change. It has to change if we want a better future, if we want a brighter future, then it has to change, right? And so we're just giving a way for it to change. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I believe that's right too. So because I'm an independent, because I don't want to be on red team, blue team, elephant, donkey, republic, conservative, liberal, because I don't want to be there. Now I have no say whatsoever. If I want to vote for an independent because I can't be in a primary and the primaries are the ones that are going to win, then my voice doesn't mean anything. That doesn't sound like a good system. And so, yeah, I think that would probably be a good, that was probably um, a good way to do that. So, yeah, let's finish this up. We'll wrap it up. So you guys got ended up watching the whole video anyway. You don't have to watch it on your own. You watched it with me. Absolutely. By the way, this video came out right before the 2024 election, where, again, Biden dropped out, gave his war chest to Camilla, and she just spent alone, over $1 billion on her campaign. And then I think Trump spends like something like 700 million or something like that. And then you put all the other congressional campaigns. So all this money that goes into this, and the money should be going towards reform as opposed to the money is not going, it's not going in the right place. It's not going to the right people. And it's a lot of money that could help that could be used to reform and help the American people as opposed to the way it's spent. Let's just say that. Um, I'm on that team. Oh, yeah. So thank you, Andrew. Let me stop sharing. So yeah, um, that's so one other thing that you said there. It's like that he was just alluding to the end is that our system is it's not just so bad that there's two parties and there's no choice and you have to be one or the other or people just bail out and not even consider anything, but it's also the fact that they don't fix anything. There's no incentive to fix anything to help us, the people. The only thing that they try to do is create more jobs and spend more money. Like, it was, how can we spend money? And, and then we'll cater to older people to make sure that they, still have their social security and whatnot, because those are the people who go and vote. And younger people get more and more disillusioned and disenfranchised and with the whole system, and they don't participate. And so nothing gets done for them. All right. And that's the future is the younger people. And so we've shifted all the money out of their pockets. They can't buy a home. Home prices are ridiculous now. They can't buy a home. They can barely live in apartments. They can barely save any money for later on. Like, what do you think is going to happen if we continue this path? Like, and now we're going to start taking away their jobs and their opportunities again. The one thing we don't learn from um, history is that we never learn anything from history. So, and we are going down this path again. And I know the name of my company is Bright Futures, but we have to say, where are we right now? Oh, what happened? Oh, my live. Sorry. I'll let TikTok know I'm still here. So we have to look at this and say, where are our youth going to go if the system isn't fixed? I mean, just look at the average. I'm gonna look it up right now. What is the average age of a congressperson? Quiet, Andrew. Let me look it up. Hold on. If you had to guess, you could throw it in the chat. What do you think the average age of a U.S. congressman or woman is? I'm curious. Let's see what it is. What is the average age of a U.S. congressman? Let's see what we get. Congressperson. Oh, there you go. The average age is 58 years old. 58 is the average. The average age of a senator is 64. So, how are these people who are the average, by the way? So, if the average, so that means that for every person who is 40, okay, there's somebody for the average to be 58. If they're 40 and a congressperson, they have to be 18 years old, and that person has to be 76. Right? So every 40-year-old, there's a 76-year-old. How are these people managed? Like, I remember when Biden was there, I'm like, how is he talking about things that he doesn't even use? How TikTok and these people how are these people understanding what it's like to be a 20-year-old out of college, 25-year-old with college debt? When they went to college, a house would cost in the 70s, the same house that costs $400,000 now is going to cost them $30,000, $40,000. How are they going to relate to these things? And then they never get taken out of their position. So not only can't relate, and they don't even understand. This is why people say the Congress, like our representatives, are just out of touch with the American people, what's going on, because of course they're out of touch. They're living a 2 generations ago. So how are they going to understand UBI and the technology and AI and all this stuff when they don't even use it? They don't even understand it. They don't have to. And they never get voted out because of the systems that are in place. So, do I think maybe term limits would be good? But yeah, I think maybe term limit, like you could only get reelected twice or 3 times or something. But who's going to pass that law? The people who literally are in power, like why would they do that? Why would they give up their own power? They're not going to pass that. So we have to do something. We, the people, literally have to go and say, I will accept the fact that maybe the evil Republicans or the evil Democrats, the crazy libs, the whatever you want to say, whatever your hatred of the other side is, maybe for one time we have to say we need to fix this system. So therefore, let's just vote for ranked choice voting or an independent party or whatever, and put somebody in there and get the system. We're going to vote for the person who's going to put in place the things that we want that are actually going to represent us. Instead of having for those of you who weren't here during that video, instead of having a 15% approval rating of a congressperson and they had 94% reelection rate, why would they care about you if they keep their job no matter what, even with a 15% approval rate of the people, right? So it's got to be all the people in the middle. It's got to be the people who are like me, who I don't know when the primaries were. I didn't vote in the primaries. I didn't pay attention to it. I got life to do, and that's what they expect. That's what they want. They want you to get involved, and they want you to get distracted with all the nonsense. And so they can just keep taking the money and taking more of your rights and making your life worse and taking power from you and handing it to them. And so at some point, either it's going to be a revolution in a physical way, um, or we have to have a revolution as in a more civilized way. And but unfortunately, people tend to not take action, not want to get involved. And I understand it. It's not like this is not a judgment. I was talking, I just had there was just a 30-year reunion of the class below me, right? From 1995. And I was talking to some people there, and they're just like, look, I don't even understand how TikTok. I got kids, I got things, I got work and kids, and I got all these things to take care of, and I don't know what's going on. And I get it. I mean, I get it. I mean, I kind of get it. I don't have kids, so I don't get it. I get it conceptually. Let's put it that way. Um, but yeah, so it is 11:05. We've done an hour so we did the Andrew Yang. So I have lots of stuff I want to talk about in the future on these moving forward Mondays. I want to talk about the Electoral College. We're going to talk about state and local voting in Congress. We're going to talk about I talked about those congressional lines. We're going to do a whole thing about that. I want to talk about dollars. I want to talk about this separation. When they made the United States, they separated church and state, but it's like now we need a new constitution that separates money and state, corporation and state, with the PACs and the lobby groups and all that stuff that needs to be taken out of the government. The idea that the government is supposed to be there to protect us from the corporate a corporation. I don't blame corporations, by the way. So, side note, I'm gonna do a whole other podcast about this, but I don't blame corporations for having lobby groups and trying to get things passed that are in their benefit. Why would I blame them? That's the point of a corporation, is to make a profit. That is it, in any sense of the word. Now, can you be a person who runs a corporation who's like, I want to let's not, dump toxic sludge into the groundwater to make our products? Yeah, maybe we should make it so it's not a choking hazard. You know, you could do that, but the point of the corporation is to make a profit and make as much money as they possibly can, lower costs and raise revenues to a point that they can. The point of government is to be the referee, is to stop this, to put blocks into place so that there's not their job is to protect the people, to say, yeah, you can't have slave labor, you can't have child wages, you can't have, the minimum wage hasn't increased. Look, I'm not a big fan of a minimum wage, in a corporate way. But if you're going to have a minimum wage, how has it not gone up in like like the whole point of the minimum wage is that you can live. And so the minimum wage we could do I could do a whole nother podcast about this, but if you don't raise it, then what's the point of having it? Like you should just get rid of it then. So anyway, but that's what the government is supposed to be there for. You know why the minimum wage hasn't the minimum wage hasn't gone up? Because the companies and corporations buy the politicians, and the politicians don't have to raise it because the people don't vote them out. Plain and simple. That's why. But the government's supposed to be there to put in check the corporations. So the corporations do what they want to do. But if one team is paying the referee, then you know what? Like it's like the people versus the corporation. The people want to live healthy, happy lives, right? And the corporation wants to make profit. And the government is supposed to be the referee. And the people aren't paying the referee, but then the corporations are paying the referee oodles and oodles of money. So what's the referee going to do? They're going to bend the rules and towards the corporations. So, I had a friend who was going to run for some low level, I don't even know, committee member, counselor, something, something he was running for. And literally the first meeting, all we talked about was, and it was like local, jokel, nothing. And all we talked about was fundraising. He's like, and how we can find the whales and how we can get this, are we going to go to every single house, knock on doors, trying to make money? No. How can we get the whales? Right? How can you get and that was a nothing position. Imagine you were like a senator or a congressperson. Forget it. It's like you're all they're all tied in. So, the next America, we need to separate corporate. Just money can't be involved. The money for the government, the way I think about it, and again, this is gonna be a whole nother podcast. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. It is I do like Andrew Yang's suggestion of having democracy dollars, which we'll talk about. But in my mind, it's like you should literally have um, levels of voting, and then depending on how many signatures or votes or whatever you get at a certain time, you get a certain amount of money that you can spend in whatever way you want from the government. That it comes from the taxpayers. Like that should be, our taxes go to get our representatives. So, and the ones that do the best for us are the ones that get the money and the funds. I mean, that's the way I believe, but that's a whole other, we'll do that another time. We're going to do a whole thing on UBI. We'll do more on ranked choice voting. We could talk about that some more, and whatever you guys want to talk about. Like I'm open. Hey, Melanie. So, um, the I'm open to a lot of different topics. But just again to promote, you can check out the website. It's brightfutureadvocates.com. I'm gonna be working on that as soon as I get off this live. I'm gonna work on the Patreon. I'm gonna be working on the website. We're going to do again, Monday is moving forward Mondays. Tuesday is Tesla Tuesdays. Wednesday is Wealth Building Wednesdays. I know I'm very original with the titles here. Thursday, I'm taking off, and then Friday we will be doing a Philosophy Fridays. I'm excited about that. We're going to talk about some space, and we're going to talk about the future. I got a lot of good stuff about that. Black holes. I think I want to talk about black holes on Friday. So we'll be doing a little bit of that, and then yeah, and then the weekends. I don't know. I might do more on the weekends, but for right now we got four. You can check out the Patreon if you want to support. And hopefully, if you're listening to this on Spotify or in the future, by the way, feel free to shout out. I'm going to have guests in the future. I'm going to learn all this stuff. I'm just going to be posting a lot of content, and send me questions, send me comments, and I would love to answer them. And I'm excited about Bright Futures. I'm excited about where I'm going to go. I'm excited about where I'm going to bring a lot of you, and we're going to have a lot of fun along the way. So that's it for me tonight. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Mr. Andrew Yang, for your talk. We'll have more clips coming up soon, and I will see you tomorrow, where we'll talk about Tesla. It'll be Tesla Tuesday. All right. Ciao, everyone. I hope everyone has a bright future.